So our goals are basically to create an account in Edpuzzle and show you just what in the world Edpuzzle is if you're completely unfamiliar, and many of you very well may be. I'm going to show you how to edit an existing Edpuzzle video inside of Edpuzzle, or very briefly, how to upload your own. You're probably going to edit one that's already there more often than not, right? But you might want to upload one for, say, like your mini lesson that you did in Loom or something of that nature. Then we're going to spend a good deal of our time step by step integrating Edpuzzle into Schoology. That part can't be really made exciting, and it's not going to take an extraordinary amount of time. It's quite easy, but it's one of those things where it has maybe 10 steps, and we just need to make sure that they're right so that it works without any hitch for you and your students. We just want to make sure it works really well. Then I'll go into Schoology under my account, and I'll show you how to add Edpuzzles in. It's super fast once you add that app to get them into Schoology, and it does grade them for you, sticks them in the gradebook in Schoology, the whole big deal. Then we'll talk about our ideas, and I hope that's when you'll definitely unmute and you'll share what you think you can use Edpuzzle for in your classroom. We think it's good to use for the learn it portion, believe it or not, as opposed to a practice it or something like that. And then our product today will be setting our goals for implementation and getting our Edpuzzle in there. So it's not something we'll get done today at the end of our session, because you'll need to go into Edpuzzle and make one or find one to edit later. Because again, we'll have to give a portion of our time, unfortunately, to getting it into Schoology. Just this one time, and then it should be smooth sailing for you to do so moving forward. One last time, I'm going to put the link in there just to make sure I've caught everybody that might have popped in. I haven't heard the door in a while, but just to make sure. There it is. Oh, thanks, Chris. I didn't see it. All right. So the big idea today is that Edpuzzle could be a way to answer that question of increasing the level of engagement and interaction, especially during your learn it portion of your Schoology module. We know that chunking is the right thing to do, and we know that kids need to receive feedback, and Edpuzzle can be a way to do that very creatively and very simply with stuff that you already use in your courses right now. So what in the world is Edpuzzle? Okay, so imagine you took the YouTube video that you were using anyway. That could be from anywhere on YouTube, right? Khan Academy. I used Crash Course a ton, Crash Course Junior a ton in science. Could certainly be a video you made and put on YouTube yourself. What else did we use? Math Antics, we use that a ton. Any video that you want will still appear and will still be distributed to your kids in Schoology just fine. But what if we could actually have some feedback occur along with the video as the student watched the video to, one, prove that they watched it, two, make sure that we're checking for understanding and giving them feedback on what they know or don't. And if necessary, to gain some sort of grade out of that activity. It's a great way to get feedback from your kids too, to make sure you can then change your lessons to make sure they're learning what you wanted them to. So the way it will look is kind of like this, and then we're going to jump in one after we make an account. The way it will look is kind of like this. It's still going to have the YouTube video on the left, and to the right, you'll see questions. And so what will happen to the student is, as they're watching the video, let's say that you have elected to put a question at second 17. Then at second 17, that video will pause on the left side. That question will pop up on the right. The video will stay paused until that student responds to the question. Not right or wrong, though, necessarily, right? As long as they respond, it will then let them continue their video. So if you want to prove they've watched the video and assess that they have some basic understanding of the whole video, at the very least, you would put some questions toward the end, right, to make sure that they watch the whole thing. Okay. Why is this a big deal right now? Well, for an LMS, it works perfectly, right? You're putting a ton more video content out than you were last year. So it becomes more imperative. But Edpuzzle has been around for quite a while, and it's something I used in the classroom when I was in the classroom. It just works a lot better than an LMS, and it's really great for sort of this kind of flipped learning that we're all sort of having to do now. So it's just more imperative now. It's not a new tool. It is a proven one. It's one that definitely works very well. Haven't heard of Edpuzzle having hiccups or anything. If anything, the problems that I had and the drawbacks that I had to using Edpuzzle in the classroom were having to deal with the rosters and all that stuff. I tend to shy away from sites where I've got to roster all the kids and all that stuff. And with it integrated into Schoology now, it'll take care of that. So all the drawbacks are alleviated when you pair it with an LMS. So the first thing we need to do is make an account. So if in another tab or on your other device, you'll just go to edpuzzle.com and click sign up at the top right. So I'm going to switch over so I can see you guys. So just go to edpuzzle.com and click sign up on the top right. Make sure that you don't type in all the stuff that it asks for, but instead you click I'm a teacher and choose sign in with Google. And since I've already done this, I can't show you all the screens. So let me know when you're there. Comment if I go too fast, just say, hey, we're not there yet. So you're just going to Edpuzzle and you're hitting sign in with Google. I'm getting a little guidance from you guys on the screens after that. I've done this enough times, I think I know, but it's going to pop up and ask you for your name. It's going to populate some stuff from Google. It's going to ask you what school you work at. It's going to ask you your grade level and some basic demographic information, I believe would be the next step. So go ahead and fill that out. Don't feel like if you put 5th grade, but you'd rather see stuff for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, it's going to limit you or anything. It doesn't. It doesn't matter if you choose the wrong grade. You can always change it later. It doesn't matter if you choose the wrong school. So please choose the right school, but I think you can do that. Yes, ma'am, Miss Kelly. I can't hear you if you're talking.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
There you are.
So do we just create our own password?
So where it says password, that's optional. So don't put a password in there because otherwise, believe it or not, it's just going to use your Google password. So just don't put anything in there. Thank you for reminding me of that. So let me know. I'm going to give you just a few more moments to get in there. It's not going to ask you for any codes or anything like that. Not yet. so you should be okay once you get in there. And you should end up at a screen that looks like this. So I'm going to meet you back at the screen that looks like this in just a second. And then we're going to try Edpuzzles as a student. So you can kind of see what they would experience. Just a really short, easy one. And then we'll get going. Okay. So can somebody raise their hand or comment if you aren't ready to proceed?
So Ashley asked, if you put in a password, can you take it out?
I don't know. Let me see. So it looks like that it automatically, I didn't put in a password. So it looks like it automatically puts in this little password right here. Let's go forward because I definitely don't have to enter a password. Let's go forward and see if it presents a problem and we can figure it out how to, I believe if we needed to, we could disconnect your Google and reconnect it and that would fix it. But I'd rather not fool with Google if we don't have to. You might have noticed the way that I logged in. So if you're concerned about that, let me just show you what happens the next time you come back to Edpuzzle. So when I come to Edpuzzle, I literally just hit log in. I'm a teacher, and I don't type any of this stuff in. It reminds me of Seesaw. I just hit sign in with Google, click my name, or Schoology for that matter. I just click sign in with Google and click my name, and off I go. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I know, Ashley and Brittany, and I should have remembered that because somebody had asked me before. It's kind of weird that it lets you log in with something that already has a password and then asks you for a password. Okay, so in the chat, comment if you aren't ready to proceed. If you are not ready, if you need another moment to get your account set up. Okay, off we go. Alrighty, so you have an account. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to take Edpuzzle for a spin as a student. Okay, so you guys are definitely not students in my class. And so what I did is you can make an Edpuzzle that's public. So imagine it being like a, you know, a Google slideshow like this that's just public, a public link. So you can do that. So you're not going to see exactly the same screen as students, but pretty much the same thing. Also, because you aren't students, I'm allowing you, I'm letting you skip ahead in the video. So don't watch the whole video. It's okay. I just wanted you to see how it works. So you can take the little dot and pull it ahead on the timeline so you don't have to watch the full video. It's only a minute and a half. But if you pull it ahead to these little teardrops that you see, those are where questions will pop up. So we just want to show you a couple examples of what it looks like. So you can click here to access that example, but I'll also throw it in chat as well. So you have that. So just click that link. I'm just going to give you a minute just to see what it looks like from a student end. It should work when you click on it. On your end, you should see something that looks like this. If I weren't logged in, you can see that when I get to the little teardrop, it stops and asks us questions. So that's just the look and feel. But you go ahead and do that, and I'll be back in like 2 minutes. So you can see Caitlin just threw in there a multiple choice question and an open-ended question. You can also add notes. So if the video doesn't match perfectly what you said to your kids in class and you're like, man, that's not the way I would say it, you can throw a note in there. I did that for Force and Motion because the video that I found was awesome. It was perfectly short enough. It was awesome. It was great. It was one our whole grade level used. So I wanted to make sure I used it, but it had a formula in it for Force and Motion that was way more complicated than anything we needed to do. I just kind of mentioned it, but I didn't want my kids to get hung up on it. So I just put a little stuff and put a little note over there and said, remember in class, we're just doing force equals mass times acceleration. That's it. Don't worry about this. and that was just to let them know that I was still there, kind of. I wasn't letting the video just draw on and teach them. So, and you know, it just popped up and they just had to say sure, and it went away and the video went on. So does anybody have any questions about just looking at that initial Edpuzzle? And then we'll get into real ones on Edpuzzle. It looks pretty straightforward, right? Thanks. So you can put any video you want to in there, and you can find anything in YouTube to add this to. So just consider it a frame that you add those questions, comments to on top of the video you would have been using anyhow. All right. And again, even though you guys were allowed to skip ahead, we can make it so that kids aren't. By default, they aren't. So they'd have to watch the whole thing. All right, so while you're in Edpuzzle, let's talk about how to make one, and then we'll put it into Schoology. So again, I'm going to stay away from the presentation for a little while, but I just want to show you that there are video clips on how to edit existing Edpuzzles and how to create one with your own video that Caitlin and I made. And there is a video on how to integrate it all into Schoology as well. So there's videos explaining all this. That said, if I go too fast or don't explain something very well, just feel free to say so. It won't hurt my feelings. I want to make sure that this gets done the way that you need it to get done and you understand what's going on. So if you will, you can follow me too. I'm going to show you how to search first. So why don't somebody give me a topic of something that's coming up in your, let's do science. Somebody give me a topic of what's coming up in your science that you might want to use a video for, or heck, that you already have a video for. I know first grade has habitats coming up. Magnets, yeah, somebody said magnets yesterday. Ecosystems. I'll do magnets. I think I already had one right there on magnets. All right. So you can kind of toggle between me and your own Edpuzzle if you want to actively search for this, or if you want to watch me search and do your searching later, whatever works for you. Okay. So I'm going to Edpuzzle, and you can notice that there's kind of 3 menus up here. I will say it would be nice if it wasn't just black text everywhere. There's like hardly any buttons. But luckily, because we're going to integrate with Schoology, we don't need the buttons anyhow. So it's pretty great. As long as you're on content, you're good. Okay, so all this is content. You can see it's clearly labeled all over the place. So I'm going to search up here for whatever content, and I'm going to do magnets. Right? So when you do a search, you have stuff that's from the Edpuzzle community. That means that the video has already been turned into an Edpuzzle. The questions have been added. If you click on YouTube, they have not been turned into an Edpuzzle. You're basically searching YouTube. Okay. And while it mentions certain YouTube channels, you know that there's content that you like on YouTube that comes from other channels, plenty of other channels. So don't feel like you have to search these. You can search whatever you want. And I can show you how to find one from a YouTube link that you just have that you like. Okay. So let's start first though with an Edpuzzle that's done. So let's say that we found, I love these things. So let's say we've watched this video. This is the video that we want to use. Okay, we already previewed it and it's perfect for our content. I'm going to click on it. And again, this is what the kids are going to see. Every time there's a little teardrop marker, there's two sandwiched together right there, it's going to stop for some reason, either a multiple choice question, which could be true, false, or whatever else too, a note that you just typed or that this person has typed, or a open-ended question. Okay. So you could simply watch it, and as it does, just like you did the ELF video a moment ago, it's going to pause and it's going to show you the question that the kid would see. Okay. So I don't want to do that. Let's pretend we've already watched this and chosen this one. But let's say that, you know, it's not perfect. It's not the questions that I would like, or I want to add more questions. You'll notice that there are finally some colored options on the bottom right. So you'll just click edit. So let's find a video of our own. Go ahead and take a moment to find a video of your own. Bring it up and click edit. And again, don't feel as though you're married to this one. It doesn't take long to edit one, so don't feel like you're going to waste time if you pick one that you end up not liking. I still want to show you how to do it. So I'm just going to give you a moment to search for whatever you like and find your video. If you do pick one from the YouTube tab, again, you'll just be adding all the questions yourself. It's not too difficult to do that. Okay. All right, so go ahead and click on one of those. Any of them you like. Do be careful not to pick one that's really long. We know that research shows 5 or 6 minutes is all you get. If you go anywhere past that, the kids are not watching you. And if you say, well, that's fine, you just said I could stick a question at the end, please don't do that. Don't make them watch a 20-minute video and stick a question at the end of that 20 minutes. They will hate you. Please don't do that. All right, so once you pick one, I will recommend one thing that I've learned. When I stick this video in Schoology at the end of the day, this is going to be the title still. See it tiny up here? So if you want the title to be anything else that's more descriptive, like maybe practice it, it's going to have exactly this in there. So go ahead and fix that. I'm going to just call it magnetism and get rid of all those wordiness. That is going to pull into your Schoology. Okay, so you have 3 menus, but the good news is you're only going to really worry about one of them most of the time, okay? The first one is cutting the video. So if you did pick a 20-minute video, you could cut it by just dragging from one end to the other. He keeps talking every time I touch it, so it calls it. But you would just slide it together to pinch out the portion in blue that you want to show. If I'm going to do all that editing, let's be honest, I'm going to find a different video. You'll also find that if you search Edpuzzle, the same video will have been made into an Edpuzzle numerous times. So it could be that somebody else has done a bunch of the editing for you, added different questions that you like. So just because you see the same little freeze frame doesn't mean they're the exact same thing. It's just like us editing one and it being a duplicate. Okay. So I'm not going to cut a video very often, but I could just pinch from the corners and do that. The second one is voiceover. I'm going to do that even less. What that does is it mutes the sound of the video and makes me narrate the thing. Again, if the words, the sound on the video is so inexcusable that I don't want to do it and I want to redo the video's audio myself, pick a different video. I think the magic happens on the third one with the questions, right? So let's see how simple the question part is. Okay, let's skip to that for just a minute. Again, we're watching the video. It's going to trip and stop when we hit these little teardrops. When I click on a teardrop and hit play, let me go right before it. It should stop. Oh, nothing's there. Nothing's on that one. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, his is not doing what it normally does. I'm going to go find a different one because normally it would stop on that. So let me just pick a different one real fast.
Kyle,
Yes, ma'am.
while you're searching, I was going to ask, I'm a little bit confused as if you edit a video that you find in Edpuzzle, does it create a new video with your name on it, or
It
does
sure does. It does. It's not your video, but it's your Edpuzzle. So it does create a new video with your name on it that becomes yours.
So you don't alter something that somebody else has done or delete something that somebody else has done?
No, it makes a copy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, you don't have any fear of messing up anybody else's work or anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm not sure what was happening to the other gentleman's video, but when I go to the teardrop, ordinarily, the question pops up, and this is the screen kids will see. It's very clean. It's the video and just a question on a white background. Super simple. And they would just click the box to do that. But while we're in this edit mode, we can click on the pencil to edit, like, everything. And all I have to do is I get these very old-timey looking text boxes, and I can just type in there whatever I want. Now, I can add other choices. If I want the standard 4-choice multiple choice question, I can. I can also click the right answer by just choosing the green check mark, and you can see that you can have multiple right answers too. You better tell your kids that though, right? Better fix that. So you can simply type in here. For lower grade students, you can also add pictures to each box. You unfortunately though cannot narrate the box with the audio. Okay, so when you're done changing whatever you like, you just hit save, and you come back to the video and you go to the next video, right? I mean, next question to edit it. Now, let's say that this guy's talking and I want to add another question that this author didn't have. I can go to any spot in the video, and at any moment I can hit one of my 3 options, which is multiple choice, open-ended, or note. So let's do an open-ended one. Again, all you see that's any different is I would just type in my question and save, and the kids will get a box that shows where they can type in their answer. Okay. If I wanted to do a note, it's again very similar. I just click note wherever I like, and I can enter my note right here with the same buttons. You see that my editing tools are very limited, which is kind of good because we don't have to worry about making it look nice. We just get the job done. Now, what I do like about notes is you can see that there's a microphone here, so you can read something aloud. So your kids would suddenly hear you, and you could say, "Hey, this is where I explain force equals mass times acceleration," instead of the formula that sounds more complicated but ends up the same thing that the gentleman noted in the video. Okay, now you see that all this stuff is also listed over here. So if I don't want to watch the whole video again and I just need to see what the questions were, I can find them here, and clicking on any of those skips me right to it also. Okay,
Kyle,
are there any questions?
Sorry,
Yeah,
the
no,
microphone is for the teachers, not for the student.
Sorry, what you say, Kelly?
Can the student use the microphone or just the teacher?
So just the teacher on this. So Schoology has the built-in mic features, right? So if you put this in and then had them go respond with their voice on maybe a discussion board or an assignment, you'd be fine. But they can't do it inside of that puzzle. Yeah. And that has been the number one question from folks in doing this training with my PLCs is, can I narrate every question? And unfortunately you can't, but you can do it in Schoology. So I know that's not the same, but there are some workarounds. Does anybody have any other questions about the edit menu? Because this is where the important work's done, obviously. Okay, if you think of one, just stop me and let me know. The point being, when you're done with your edit menu, all you have to do is everything is saving automatically, just like you would expect nowadays. So you're just going to hit finish in the top right corner. It takes you back to that very same screen, and you absolutely do nothing. Okay, normally, if you didn't have an LMS or Schoology or whatever else, you would have to deal with assigning it and stuff, and that's honestly the part I did not like. But you don't have to do that anymore, so it's fantastic. We're going to link it right into Schoology, and it's going to take care of all that mess for you, so you will never really have to mess with the classes in here or a grade book or any of that. It's going to take care of all that in Schoology. Really cool. I'm actually super stoked about that because I really did not like those menus. So let me show you really briefly how to upload your own video. So let's say that you have a YouTube video that you just wanted, that you didn't feel like looking for it in here. If you go back to content and go to my content, so like your stuff, you'll see that because I hit finish on that video, on both of them, I think, both of them are sitting here waiting on me. They're saved in my content, kind of like my drive. If you don't like the content that's on there, you do have two colored buttons over here. One that wants to take your money, don't do that, and one that will let you add your own stuff. So if you hit add content, you can do upload a video. Okay. So if you have a video that you did in Loom of your mini lesson, you could save it wherever, on your desktop. If you have one of those, you could drag it on here. If you saved it in Google Drive, you could bring it straight up from your Google Drive. You can choose it from your download folder on your computer. You can get it here however you like. And as long as it's less than a gig, you're good. And that's pretty long usually, depending on how great your webcam is. So it'll upload. Now, we'll say the reason I'm not doing this right now is because it does take a minute to upload. Once it's uploaded, though, it basically looks just like all the other videos. And once it's sitting here in your My Content, you just click on it, and you will edit again and make the changes just like we did to a video that came from YouTube or somewhere else. I think that's powerful. Yeah.
So Kyle, Brittany's asking if there's a place where you can search for specific grade levels, or if the videos that you pull from Edpuzzle, if it shows you the grade level.
So it does, but so what happens is when I search, there's some drop downs here, and so I can narrow it by grade level. It pulls the one you told it that you taught to the top, but it doesn't matter. You can choose whatever you like. Keep in mind that a person chose this, right? So a third grade teacher might have put third grade when it could have worked for fourth and fifth grade, and they just weren't. They were thinking about themselves. So don't put too much stock in that, but it definitely will narrow it down a bit. You can also search for certain countries. You can search for certain subjects to narrow it down a bit. And if you go to YouTube, you can search by the channels, which must be partners with them or something. So if you want to go to like Crash Course, it'll filter out just Crash Course stuff on magnets.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
If you upload a video, does it make it like public content? Like if you uploaded something that's a mini lesson of yours, does it make it where everybody in the county can use it?
I believe, let me check. I believe it will make it public to the county. So you'll notice that mine's labeled Gaston County Schools. I believe yours will be too. I believe you will have one that has your school too. It says that I have 66 schools. I don't know how that is. But it says I have 66 schools and 1,200 teachers in our network. And so these are ones made by, well, many of these are you guys. There's Alexa and Kelly and Sarah and Lynn and Alyssa that are in here right now. So many of these are being worked on right this minute, and there you are. So If you upload one of your own, I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to try that and get back to you.
All right, thank you.
Make sure, yeah, no problem. I want to say yes, because I know somebody asked me this several months ago that was using the Edpuzzle before it was integrated. And I believe that it was public to the school system, but not public to the world. All right, any other questions before we move on? So the good news is there's not a lot of buttons. It's fairly easy to learn. Once you find the video, you tell it when you want to stop, and you tell it what you want it to ask, and that's about it. It's easier than making a Google form. I mean, really, there's not very many options, but again, you're probably just checking along the way. And I'm thinking about the times in my mini lesson when I would stop and say, let's talk about this. We're trying to approximate that discussion that would have happened in the class. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is how to get it into Schoology. So when you want to assign that Edpuzzle, so you've gone to Edpuzzle, you found the Edpuzzle that you want, you've edited the questions, and you've saved it, right? Then, let me delete this one. Then you're going to add it to your Schoology account, okay? So you're going to do add materials just like you add everything else, and you're going to find that there's an Edpuzzle button there now. And so you're going to hit Edpuzzle, and when you do that, it brings up only your My Content. So you can't search or anything. It's only going to pull up the stuff that you've already made, okay, which is great because you don't have to sift through everything. So you're going to find the video that I made earlier. You're going to click the eyeball to watch it. You don't have to watch it again, but there it is. You're going to hit assign. And then you're going to hit assign again, and it will assign it to your class. Before I hit that, I want to point out that you can, there it is where it prevents the kids from being able to skip or scrub ahead in the timeline. So they have to watch the whole thing. And I'm going to hit assign. When I do that, it will add it to my course. Now, notice that it just adds it by title, okay? I don't have a way to give directions or an explanation. So that would need to happen in your playlist that you've made or on a page prior or the following discussion board or somewhere else. And certainly until they get used to it. And that's why I recommend changing the title. So it does say like practice it magnetism or whatever it might be, okay? Now there is one more step, and Angela, I think this will fix yours. For this to grade for you, and before kindergarten through second grade teachers say, yeah, I don't care about that. In this case, we mean keep track of the kid's progress, right? So not a grade. Go to the gear to the right of that item and edit it, and you get a bunch of edit options. It's kind of like when you do an assessment, and if you were in Teresa's session, I bet she mentioned this. When you copy an assessment for somebody, you know how you have to enable submissions? It's like that. So enable grading, and go ahead and pick a category. I'm just going to do, I am going to grade this one so I can show you what happens in the grade book. And I'm going to hit save changes. And I bet that'll work, Angela. I think that's what it does when I forget to do that. We can integrate Quizlet. So John, I mean, I have had a couple people that test it. I started looking at it last Friday. And Quizlet has an embed feature on Quizlet without the app that puts a Quizlet in your course, but it looks like this. And I thought the app would do something awesome, and it does the same thing. So a good example is, you know how we just set up Edpuzzle to have your login information on it? That's what the codes were. Well, when we set up Quizlet, it has the same code for everybody in our county. It just says like Schoology. Not even the county, everybody that uses Schoology actually. So it's not really handling the login for you or anything. I don't understand the point of it other than it adds a button here, which, you know, just isn't that great. So that's why I'm not as amazed as I'd like to be by it. So I'm not really sweating it too much. I'm gonna keep researching it, but it doesn't look like it does much. So anyway, there's our Edpuzzle. So when I click on the Edpuzzle, once it's rostered, I'll get all my names of my kids here. I can see how much of it they watched, what grade they got on the questions if they're multiple choice, the last time they watched it, if they turned it in, because there's like a submit button at the end. I'll get all that. I can even click on questions and I can see how they performed on each question. Okay. If I want to see all my Edpuzzle stuff without going to Edpuzzle, there's buttons down on the left. And I can click on Edpuzzle here, and I can see every Edpuzzle I've ever assigned in this class, including the ones I deleted, by the way. You can see I've played a whole lot. And I can see all the grades that everybody has put. So if I go here, you'll see Caitlin's grade on here. She's 100% done, but she didn't do so hot. But it's time-stamped and the whole 9 yards. Okay. If there was an open-ended question that I needed to grade because it's open-ended, then it would be listed here. In fact, I just did Caitlin's yesterday. It said new answer to grade in a big red flag on top of it, and notified me. So I could click on that. I never had to go to Edpuzzle, you guys. It just logs me into Edpuzzle right here inside of Schoology. I do my thing, and I never have to go out to Edpuzzle at all. It really works very, very well. I haven't had any issues with it. That's not true. I've had a couple issues with it, but we went back and redid the keys, and it worked fine. So I know that was a really fast blitz at the end. We have a few minutes, so I just want to show you, since mine's already up and running, how it worked. So does anybody have any other questions?
Can I stay on afterwards? I need help with mine too, because I've done everything you said, and it has Edpuzzle when you go in to click on it, but then it's still saying for me to put in the keys, which I have twice.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, we'll definitely check it out.
Kyle?
Yes, ma'am.
I have one question. I'm sorry to bother you. I'm getting questions about, do you have parental consent for your students to use Edpuzzle?
When are you getting that question?
Like when I click on add course materials and I do add materials and click on Edpuzzle, and
yes,
it says,
so that part won't be there just yet. It needs to roster first. So just give it a little bit more time. The parental consent issue with Edpuzzle is important though, so let me talk to that a bit. Every website that we use, before we go to use it, we have to read their terms of service. Zoom is a great example of that. If you go to the terms of service, it will recommend that you don't use things like Zoom for kids under the age of sometimes 16, sometimes 13, sometimes it's fine for everybody. Zoom's is, I believe, 16. So if it says that, then we're dead in the water. We can't use it. Edpuzzle says 13, but it has a bunch of clauses in there that say you can get parental consent, or if you pull it in behind some other shell like our LMS, then we can kind of verify that it's safe, right? That, yeah, I'm using Edpuzzle, but I'm using Edpuzzle inside of Schoology, and they're really logging into Schoology to get the Edpuzzle. So because of that, we're okay with Edpuzzle. And that's why we are okay with Edpuzzle, and we wouldn't be with something like a Zoom, which, you know, the link, there's no Edpuzzle bombing, you know.
right.
Video, man, you know? So you're good.
But
so,
like, do I answer that? I don't know what you mean when you say it rosters. I don't.
It's going to merge your roster of your kids in Schoology with Edpuzzle by itself, and it I don't know how long it takes. Mine took a good while, but I've seen it take 15 or 20 minutes for people.
So I won't get that question after it rosters. Is that what you're saying?
You shouldn't. No, you shouldn't.
Okay.
You shouldn't get any errors or questions afterwards. We can definitely check it out if you do, but you shouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah. And to John's question, Christy's already answered it, but does it pull the grades into the Schoology gradebook? Yes, it does. So when you click on the gradebook in Schoology, I think I have one in there from Caitlin. So you'll see my columns. I think it's the food chain that's an Edpuzzle. or maybe not. There it is. It's matter. So there's Caitlin's 67, and it pulled it right in. I didn't do a thing. That's why, you know, I'm a huge fan of things that integrate and just do it for me. I want to teach. I don't want to roster kids. so yeah. All right, cool. Thanks, John. All right, so last thing then is those steps are all typed out on the next 3 slides if you need to replicate them for those other courses, okay? There's also a video on how to assign an Edpuzzle inside of Schoology. And so last, I know I'm running really short on time, but I appreciate the good questions. So now that you've seen it, let's chat just a moment about it. How do you see that you could integrate this right away? What do you think you could do with it? And I'll get you to your artifact for your DLC credit as quickly as I can.
I love the idea that a kindergartner could use the audio within Schoology to explain what their, maybe a video they watched, what they learned or something like that, and you know they've watched the video.
Yeah, you can verify for sure that they watched it.
It can be self-paced.
It is. When it stops, Sonia, on a question, it's going to sit there and wait on you. So if you stop paying attention, it's just going to sit there and it's just going to stare back at you until you answer it. It's like your mama when you did something you shouldn't do. She ain't going anywhere. She's going to stare you right down. She's not scared of you. I have these Southern colloquialisms for everything, folks. I'm from here, so. All right, so thank you for that. Yeah, we do think it has power as a learn it, and we know that if we're trying to increase engagement, the learn it is kind of the most important part, probably for that, and also maybe the driest part. So this is a way to enhance it a wee bit. So a few takeaways, as you should do with anything technological, please try this out. Maybe with something silly like my little elf thing, something that you're not just dependent upon on Monday morning. Try it out first. Do use this tool to make your videos a little more interactive. Remember that the process goes, you're going to create the Edpuzzle and Edpuzzle, and everything else happens in Schoology. So you're going to make the Edpuzzle and Edpuzzle, make sure that it's in your My Content, and you just save it, and it does that. And then everything else, all the assignment happens in Schoology, and the grading's done for you, except for the ones you do open-ended. Don't forget that you need to put those 2 codes in every course, and do it well in advance so it has time to do the rostering. I was frustrated the first time I did it as well, Natasha. It took, it felt like all day, because, you know, I was doing it. I'm like, it didn't work. And I was there for like off and on. I just kept checking. It's not there. I was all upset. So, it did work. It probably worked in 20 minutes. It was just me being foolish. But it does have problems. So don't forget that you have to do that in every course. And remember that if you do put in an open-ended question, you've got to go back and grade it. Because to what Jonathan said, it's going to stick the grade in the grade book. So it's going to count those open-ended questions wrong until you put a grade in, by the way. And my son got in trouble for having a 30 because he missed 7 questions, I thought. And he didn't. He had 100. His teacher just hadn't graded it just yet. And I didn't know that. And I feel bad for punishing my kid. So lesson learned, folks. All you need to do for your evidence for today is to submit the link to your Edpuzzle that you use in Schoology. Let me show you really quickly the easiest way to do that. When you have your Edpuzzle in Schoology with this big funky ruler on here, if you just click on it and you copy this link right here, I should be able to see it. If you copy and paste that into that form when it asks for your artifact. So it'll say it's Schoology, but it's using an external tool. If I have trouble seeing them, I will reach out for you, and I won't keep you without to do that. I can go in your course and check it out if I need to. Chrissy's put that form in here. So you can click on that link to fill it out, or you can certainly save it for later when you've finished your Edpuzzle, obviously. Remember, if you need to come back to the bit.ly, it is this. So you will need to come back to this bit.ly for the presentation and to submit your artifact. Sherry says, hey, Sherry. Sherry says, would this work with MWI videos from Solace? No. No. You have to have the video like downloaded to be able to get it back in there. So unfortunately, it won't.
Kyle, I have a quick question.
Okay.
My team and I have created a group, sort of like the academic groups, where we pull the async courses from. So if I were to create a math lesson to share with my team, how would we go about attaching that?
So, and I thank you for bringing it up, because I promised to say that and I forgot all about it. All right. So if you are in my content, so let's say, Justin, that you made the video, but your team needs it. What you would have to do is, once you're done, you're squared away. But they, like I said earlier, they would need the video in their Edpuzzle. So one, they would need to make an Edpuzzle account. They would need to download the app and link it, do all the steps that you did today. But each subsequent time, you would say, see over here, once, even though this video is done and it is mine, the edit button, the regular edit button is gone. But I have this share preview. And Jonathan, I think here's where I'd be able to change it, actually, for the upload question. I forgot all about that. All right. So I would hit share preview. And if you shared, Justin, if you shared this link with your colleagues, they would have access to it. And then they would do the steps that you would do, that I showed you today, for copying into their course. So it would say Justin up here. They would hit edit or copy. There's a copy under here normally, where duplicate is. And that would just pull it into their My Content, if that makes sense. And then they would have to add it to their courses. So it sounds convoluted, but it's kind of like sharing a Google Doc.